Let's do this.
Password, please.
Poopy doopy 123.
Incorrect password.
Poopy doopy.
Incorrect password.
I just want my jacket.
Please enter your password.
Poopy doopy 123.
Your account has now been locked.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Would you like to reset your password?
Yes.
What was the name of the person who stood 2 rows behind you in the second to last concert you went to 12 years ago?
What? Can I have another question, please?
What's your mother's maiden name?
Duke Nukem.
Please reset your password.
Poopy doopy 123.
Your password cannot be the same password you used for the past 27 times and must contain 3 uppercase letters, 4 numbers, and 2 Japanese characters.
Poopy doopy 1, 2, 3.
If you hate when this happens and you want a solution, get Dashlane. More info after the reaction.
Welcome, folks. I am Jaby Koay, joined by Achara KIRK.
Hello.
Some time back, I did a reaction to History of the Entire World, I guess, by Bill Wurtz, and that reaction was pretty popular. In the comments section, there was a number of people asking us to do History of Japan. We would like to oblige that request. Here we are doing it, History of Japan. And I am looking forward to this video.
Japan is an island by the sea filled with volcanoes and it's... In the year -1 billion, Japan might not have been here. In the year -40,000, it was here, and you could walk to it, and some people walked to it. Then it got warmer, some icebergs melted, it became an island, and now there's lots of trees, because it's warmer. So now there's people on the island, they're basically sort of hanging out in between the mountains, eating nuts off trees, and using the latest technology, like stones and bowls. Ding dong, it's the outside world, and they have technology from the future, like really good metal and crazy rice farms. Now you can make a lot of rice really, really quickly. That means if you own the farm, you own a lot of food, which is something everybody needs to survive. So that makes you king. Rice farming and rice kingdoms spread across the land, all the way to here. The most important kingdoms were here, 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 and here. But this one was the most important, ruled by a heavenly superperson, or emperor for short.
Okay.
Knock knock, get the door, it's religion. The new prince wants everyone to try this hot new religion from Biek. Please try this religion, he said. No, said everybody. Try it, he said. No, said everybody again, quieter this time. And so the religion was put into place, and all the rules that came with it. Then the government was taken over by another clique, and they made some reforms, like making the government govern more, and making the government more like China's government, which is a government that governs more. Hi, China, they said. Hi, dipshit, said China. Can you call us something else other than dipshit, said Japan. Like what, said China. How about Sunrise Land, said Japan. And they stole China's alphabet and wrote a book about themselves. And then they made lots of poetry and art and another book about themselves. Then they stopped moving the capital every time the emperor died and kept it at a place for it, right here. And they conquered the north, finally. Get that squared away. A rich hipster named Koay is bored with modern Buddhism, visits China, and learns a better version, which is more spiritual. Comes back, reinvents the alphabet, and causes art and literature to be great for a long time. And the royal palace turned into such a dream world of art that they really didn't give a shit about running the country. So if you live outside the palace, how are you supposed to protect your shit from criminals? Hire a samurai. Everyone started hiring samurai. Rich, important people hired samurai. Poor people who could not afford to hire samurai did not hire samurai. The samurai became organized and powerful, more powerful than the government. So they made their own military government. Here, they let the emperor still be emperor, but the shogun is actually in control. Breaking news, the Mongols have invaded China.
We've invaded China,
said the Mongols.
Please respect us, or else we might invade you as well.
Okay, said Japan. So the Mongols came over, ready for war, and died in a tornado. But they tried again, and had a nice time fighting with the Japanese, but then died in a tornado. Then the emperor overthrows the shogunate. Then the shogunate overthrows him back and moves to Kyoto and makes a new shogunate. And the emperor can still dress like an emperor if he wants, that's fine. Now there's more art. Like painting with less colors, collaborative poetry, plays, monkey fun, tea parties, gardening, architecture, flowers. It's time for who's going to be the next shogun. Usually it's the shogun's kid, but the shogun doesn't have a kid. So he tries to get his brother to quit being a monk and be the next shogun. He says okay, but then the shogun has a kid. So now who's it going to be? Vote now on your phones. And everyone voted so hard that the palace caught on fire and burned down. The shogun actually didn't care. He was off somewhere doing poetry. And the whole country broke into pieces. Everyone is fighting with each other for local power, and it's anybody's game.
Wow.
Knock knock, it's Europe. No, they're not here to take over. They just want to sell some shit, like clocks,
Yeah.
and guns, and Jesus. So that's cool, but everyone's still fighting each other for control, now with guns. And wouldn't it be nice to control the capital, which right now is puppets, with no one controlling them? This clan is ready to make a run for it, but first they have to trample this smaller clan, which is in the way. Surprise, the smaller clan wins, and the leader of that clan steals the idea of invading the capital and invades the capital. And it goes very well. He's about halfway through conquering Japan when someone who works for him kills him, and then someone else who works for him kills them, and that guy finishes conquering Japan. And then he confiscated everybody's swords and made some rules. And now I'm going to invade Korea and then hopefully China, he said, and failed, and also died. But before he died, he told these 5 guys to take care of his 5-year-old son until he's old enough to be the next ruler of Japan. And the 5 guys said, yeah, right. It's not going to be this kid. It's going to be one of us, because we're grown-ups.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be this guy, who happens to be way more rich and powerful than the others. A lot of people support him, but a lot of people support not supporting him. They have a fight, and he wins, and starts a new government, right here. And he still lets the emperor dress like an emperor, and have very nice things. But don't get confused, this is the new government, and they are very strict. So strict they close the country. No one can leave, and no one can come in. Except for the Dutch, if they want to buy and sell shit, but they have to do it right here. Now that the entire country was not at war with itself, the population increased a lot. Business increased, schools were built, roads were built, everyone learned to read, books were published, there was poetry, plays, sexy times, puppet shows, and Dutch studies. People started to study European science from books they bought from the Dutch. We're talking geography, skeletons, physics, chemistry, astronomy, and maybe even electricity. Over time, the economic and cultural prosperity began to gradually slow down. Knock knock. It's the United States.
Uh-oh.
Huge boats with guns. Gunboats. Open the country. Stop having it be closed, said the United States. There's really nothing they could do, so they signed a contract that lets United States, Britain, and Russia visit Japan anytime they want. Choshu and Satsuma hated this. That sucks, they said. This sucks. And with almost very little outside help, they overthrew the shogunate and somehow made the emperor again and moved him to Edo, which they renamed Eastern Capital. They made a new government, which was a lot more Western. They made a new constitution that was pretty Western. And a military that was pretty Western. And do you know what else is Western? That's right, it's conquering stuff. So what can we conquer? Korea. They conquer Korea, taking it from its previous owner, China, and then go a little bit further. And Russia rushes in out of nowhere and says, stop, no, you can't take that. We were going to build a railroad through here to try to get some warm water. And Russia builds their railroad, supervised by a shit ton of soldiers. And then when the railroad was done, they downgrade it to a fuck ton. Did I say that? Japan says, can you maybe chill? And Russia says, how about maybe you chill? Japan is kind of scared of Russia. You'll never guess who's also kind of scared of Russia. Great Britain. So Japan and Great Britain make an alliance together so they can be a little less scared of Russia. Feeling confident, Japan goes to war against Russia, just for a moment, and then they both get tired and stop. It's time for World War I. The world is about to have a war, because it's the 1900s and weapons are getting crazy, and all these empires are excited to try them out on each other. Meanwhile, Japan has been enjoying conquering stuff and wants more. And the next thing on their list is this part of China and lots of tiny islands. All that stuff belongs to Germany, which just had war declared on it by Britain because Britain was friends with Belgium, which was being trespassed by Germany in order to get to France to kick France's ass because France is friends with Russia, who was getting ready to kick Austria's ass because Austria was getting ready to kick Serbia's ass because someone from Serbia shot the leader of Austria's ass. Or actually shot him in the head. And Britain is currently friends with Japan, so you know what that means. Duh, Japan should take notes, which they wanted to do anyway, so they called Britain on the telly to sort of let them know. And then they did it. And they also helped Britain a little here and there with some errands and stuff. Now the war is over, and congratulations, Japan, you technically fought in the war, which means you get to sit at the negotiating table with the big dudes, where they decided who owns what. And yes, Japan gets to keep all that shit they stole from Germany. You also get to join the post-war mega alliance, the League of Nations, whose mission statement is to try not to take over the world. The Great Depression is bad, and Japan's economy is now crappy, but the military is doing just fine, and it invades Manchuria. In the League of Nations, it's like, no, don't do that. If you're in the League of Nations, you're not supposed to take over the world. And Japan said, anyway. And Japan invaded more and more and more and more of China, and was planning to invade the entire East.
You've got mail.
It's from Germany, the new leader of Germany. He has a cool mustache, and he's trying to take over the world and needs friends. This also got forwarded to Italy. They all decided to be friends because they had so much in common. It's time for World War II. Germany is invading the neighbors. Then they invade the neighbors' neighbors. Then the neighbors' neighbors' neighbors, who happened to be Britain, said, holy shit. And the United States started helping Britain because they are good friends, and started not helping Japan because they're friends and our friends are not friends. Plus they're planning on invading the entire ocean. The United States is also working on a large, very huge bomb, bigger than any other bomb, ever, just in case. But they still haven't joined the war. War looks bad on TV, and the United States is really starting to care about their image. But then Japan spits on them in Hawaii and challenges them to war. And they say yes. And then Germany, as a symbol of friendship, declares war on the United States also. So the United States goes to war in Europe, and they help the gang chase Germany back into Germany. And they also start chasing Japan back into Japan. And they haven't used the bomb yet, and are curious to see if it works. So they drop it on Japan. They actually drop 2.
It's really dark.
Yeah.
the United States installed a new government, inspired by the United States government, with just the right ingredients
I knew
for
if it was okay to laugh.
And Japan starts making TVs, VCRs, automobiles, and camcorders as fast as they can, and also better than everybody else. They get rich, and the economy goes wild. And then the miracle wears off.
A little wide
Cool, I guess.
Oh, is that it? It just ends like that? I laughed through the end of it.
Yeah.
Because it was just like... In the aftermath's like... Alright.
Yeah.
Y'all got us.
After seeing our sketch, you're probably wondering what Dashlane is. It's a password vault that comes with a ton of interesting features that, in combination, you probably won't find anywhere else. Now, my first question was, how do I know I can trust Dashlane? Personally, I've been super reluctant to use a password vault, but Dashlane doesn't store your master password anywhere, and your encrypted data on their servers is useless to hackers without it. In addition to being a password vault, Dashlane is also a digital wallet with an inbuilt dark web monitoring service. So your online experience is not only streamlined with autofilled passwords and payment info, but you get protection, something my mom wished my dad had before I was born. The standard version of Dashlane is free and can be used on one device, but you can also try the premium version for 30 days, which can be used on multiple devices and comes with a VPN, a feature that's sold by anyone else, can cost more than Dashlane, and all its perks. Also, and this is big to me, unlike most other trial versions of pretty much anything, you don't have to enter your credit card info. So if you change your mind, you don't have to worry about getting charged anything at the end of the trial. But if you're loving the premium version, like I do, and want to keep it like I did, using our code, you'll get 10% off. Download Dashlane using our link in the description below and give it a shot. Pow.
That's actually very representative of what happened there, because from what I've heard, because I never did the research myself on that whole part of history, is the emperor revealed himself for the very first time in history. Like, no one ever saw the emperor before. Mm-hmm. And he showed himself so he could sign the agreement that basically they would disarm their forces or whatever. That was part of the agreement. Or it was something like that. I forget exactly what the agreement was. I'm not totally read up on my history. They didn't have an army because the United States made them abandon their army, essentially.
I see,
So, it was something like that. You can correct me in the comments, by the way. I'm probably like shit when it comes to history, so that's my understanding of it.
I don't really remember anything about that from history class. All I remember is having to do this debate where we had to debate on whether or not dropping the atom bombs in Japan was a good idea or not. Like, we had to debate for or against, like, would it end the war, or would the war have ended anyway because they were losing, so there was absolutely no need.
It was the second bomb.
That.
It was the second bomb. There was like, yeah, that was excessive. We made the point with the first one, and Japan was gonna like,
yeah,
you know, it was clear who had the bigger muscles. I don't exactly know where things were economically with Japan, like how they were faring in the war. Knowing how we are as Americans, it's like we got mad, so we wanted blood, essentially, and that's what happened with that move.
Yeah, and there was the argument as well that because of Japan's code, I think it's like the samurai code or whatever their war code is, it's like they would not give up.
Yeah.
They would fight until the last person. I think one of the justifications was like, let's use the show of power so that they have to give up.
The whole thing with Pearl Harbor was pretty shitty. That was pretty shitty. While I don't like the idea of innocent people dying, like, obviously that's horrific.
Yeah.
I sort of understand the mentality of why all this stuff transpired the way it did, because it's like I said, you know, Americans wanted blood for what happened in Pearl Harbor. Like, that was pretty messed up. It was almost like, you smack me, I'm gonna drop a boulder on you.
Yeah.
It was that kind of response. And it's like, don't mess with me. That set a precedent for going forward with the United States military and whatnot. Like, obviously, you've seen where that's gone. Trying to make sure nothing, like, happens anymore. Basically being the policeman of the world.
That was interesting, though, that in the video, like, everything's moving along at such a clip. You know, there's so much information being offered in a very interesting and funny and engaging way. And then it's like, and then they dropped 2 atom bombs. Silence. Which is the best response. I was like, okay, where do we go from here? And then it's like, you win.
Yeah.
That was like the perfect way to just cut the tension. It was like, yeah.
Yeah, but you weren't even sure if it was cutting the tension.
Well, yeah,
I
because
mean,
I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh. It was funny, but I was still like, oh my God, that was an awful thing that happened.
That was such a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid kind of ending to that video, because it kind of catches you off guard. You're thinking that this is all like And then that happens, you're like, wait, what? It sort of hits you out of left field. If you haven't seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I've ruined it for you, but that's an incredibly fun movie. You should watch it. Off topic completely. This is obviously a super thorough video, and it's 3 years later, it still holds up. With YouTube, everything is like new all the time, right? And so things are constantly evolving. YouTube's only, what, 11 years old or something like that? For this to have been made back in 2016 and still be as interesting as it was back then, it's super cool.
I think it's also because it's done very simply as well. It's not amazing graphics or anything like that. The information is being shared in a very funny way.
Yeah, people are still commenting on this. Like, one person commented an hour ago.
Yeah.
Like, this video is still relevant. That's cool. A video like this can be relevant 3 years later and people are still interested in talking about it and whatnot. I mean, it makes sense. It's got 51 million views.
I mean, it's incredible just the amount of research that has to have gone into something like this. Like, there's so much that I didn't know about Japan that was just dropped in there. So, but if you asked me, I would probably just be like, there were a lot of shoguns and emperors and a lot of fighting and poetry and nakedness.
I've thought about things like that. Joe Rogan has this joke where he goes, if I leave you in the woods with an axe, how long before you make a cell phone? He's like, where are all the smart people in the world, right? That's his point, is that he's like, who is making sure the smart people stay alive? Because if there's a blackout in my neighborhood, I just sit and I wait. I don't know what to do. And I'm just waiting for the smart people to figure it out.
Right.
And if all the smart people left, I don't know what I would do because I'm not smart enough to deal with all that. I'm not equipped to deal with all that. When I said it to a friend of mine who was like way smarter than me at the time, he was like, you're not supposed to hold on to all this information. There's a reason why we have so many people who deal with this. And it's like, I think history is likewise. It's like you as one person can't hold on to all of that information. I think it requires teams of people to kind of keep all this stuff, like, you know, you can't just...
Or like written down or in a YouTube video.
Well, yeah, books and whatnot. I wouldn't expect any one person to hold on to all of that info. I don't even think Bill Wurtz knew all of that information. It's almost like you do your research and you come up with this thing. And at the end of it, when you're still only getting a cursory understanding with a video, if you had one person watch all the library of information of all of Japan, the history, you'd be hard-pressed to find that person could hold on to all of it. Unless they're one of those weird individuals that can remember everything from their life. Even those people, I'm not even sure that they could.
Well, yeah, and even most historians, they kind of have a special focus.
Exactly.
Like, mine is the Meiji era of Japanese history. Boom.
Yeah.
Ask me anything.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't feel bad is what I'm trying to say.
I learned a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you gain something from it, that's all that really counts at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You can watch it 12 more times and hold on to a little bit more.
Yeah.
But the video is supposed to just give you a kind of a cursory overview of the whole thing and entertain you at the same time. And I think it did its job really, really well, very effectively. 1.2 million upvotes is incredible. So
Yeah, that is an incredible amount of upvotes.
I wonder how this video would be produced if he did it today. Like I said, technology is rapidly changing all the time and things get easier to do with time that you couldn't do just even a few years ago. Like Adobe Premiere, for instance, is so much simpler now than it was just last year, 2 years ago, I should say. There's a lot of tools available now that make it easier to do certain things that Adobe, for some stupid reason, didn't make available to you before. What I'm getting at is, like, I really wonder if he were to remake either the history of the entire world or history of Japan, like, what would he do different? Or it's just perfect. He doesn't have to change a thing. Because what I noticed is at a certain point, he stopped using photos. It was just flags and the map. I'm wondering if he sort of just got tired as he went along in this video. He's like, God damn, like how long, like this video's taking so long to make.
It's 9 minutes long.
Yeah, well, it's not even, that's like, you know, with this kind of thing, I imagine it took him a while to get through all of this, right? Who knows what that means? That could be a month, it could be a few months that it took him to make this video. What I'm getting at is, if you look at like the last, 2 minutes where he's talking about World War II, it just shows the country and he's highlighting the countries, but he's not really showing you graphics anymore. He's just showing the flags moving around, which still communicates the point. He wasn't as thorough as the first 5 minutes where you're seeing all the images and whatnot. The only image that I can recall showing is the atom bomb. That was it. So, yeah, anyway. What came first? The chicken or the egg? No, I'm kidding. The history of the entire world or this. So May 10th, 2017. History of Japan came first. So he was more confident going into history of the entire world, knowing how well history of Japan was doing.
Right.
Because I don't think he even knew how well history of Japan was going to do. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe there's other videos in his repertoire that I don't know about that informed him that this was going to be a popular video. But my guess is that he didn't know that this thing was going to blow up on YouTube.
Well, yeah, it's history, which is probably one of the dullest subjects, unless you have a really great teacher like Bill Wurtz, you know?
I think history could be a very interesting topic, but like it can be dull if you have a dull teacher.
A boring teacher. Yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed history class for the most part. It really does depend on the teacher, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just boring as hell.
What I'm getting at is I can understand why he started getting lighter and lighter with the graphics towards the end of the video. It's like, we just need to wrap this up. So, but anyway, this is obviously very, very enjoyable. I am part of the 1.2 million upvotes on this now. And you guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to check out Achara KIRK on the social media, on her YouTube channel. She's got her own videos. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so you get notified every time we drop another video. Check out our other reactions, reviews, short films, vlogs, and interviews. I am Jaby Koay. This is
Achara KIRK.
Peace out.